Everyone called him a failure. Eli Turner had tried everything: 3 different businesses, 4 jobs, 2 degrees, and 1 failed marriage. At 37 years old, he sat in the cramped studio apartment of a friend's basement, staring at the flickering ceiling light, asking the one question that had haunted him his entire life. What am I even doing? He wasn't lazy. In fact, Eli was the kind of man who never sat still. He worked hard. He tried hard. But nothing ever lasted. Every job felt like a dead end. Every idea eventually fizzled out. He jumped from one thing to the next, hoping something, anything, would finally stick. But deep down, he knew the truth. He was chasing movement, not meaning. He grew up in rural Iowa, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs to keep food on the table. She used to say, "Eli, don't waste time wandering. Know where you're going, or the world will push you wherever it wants." But as life rushed in, bills, expectations, opinions, her words faded. Now, all these years later, they came back like thunder. Eli looked around. No savings, no home, no plan, no sense of who he even was anymore. That night, he picked up an old notebook he had carried since high school, the pages yellowed and worn. He flipped through doodles, dreams, and old goals. On the last page, something caught his eye. A note he had written to himself at age 17. Build something that helps people believe in themselves. He stared at those words like they were written in fire. A strange warmth moved through him, not excitement, but clarity. For the first time in years, Eli realized he had never truly lived with purpose. He had only been trying to escape failure, avoid pain, and follow someone else's version of success. But now he was done running. He was ready to begin. He started waking up every morning at 5 a.m., not because it was trending on social media, but because he needed time to think. To learn. To rebuild from the inside out. He stopped applying for random jobs and started volunteering at a local youth center. He remembered how lost he had been at 17, and he saw that same confusion in those kids. So he listened, not just to their stories, but to his own heart. He realized he didn't want to sell things. He didn't want to impress people. He didn't want to chase money. He wanted to help people believe again. In themselves. In second chances. In purpose. So he began documenting his journey. No camera crew. No fancy gear. Just his phone, his voice, and the truth. He posted videos talking about fear, about failure, about finding your way when you're 37 and broken. He didn't pretend to be a guru. He didn't sell answers. He just shared what he was learning. At first, no one watched. But Eli didn't care, because for the first time in his life, he wasn't doing it for views. He was doing it for alignment. For purpose. For the 17-year-old version of himself who never had anyone to tell him, "You're not a failure. You're just not done yet." One night, Eli got a message from a young man named Connor. He wrote, "I was going to take my life tonight. But I saw your video. And it made me feel something. Like maybe I could fight one more day. Thank you." Eli read that message 10 times. He cried. And then, he made a vow. "This is it. This is what I was born to do." He launched a project called the One More Day Initiative, a series of free content, live streams, and one-on-one calls aimed at helping struggling young adults find clarity and direction. It wasn't about therapy. It was about connection, purpose, belief. His message was simple: you're not lazy, you're not broken, you're just unclear. Once you find your purpose, everything changes. It took months, then a year, then 2. There were setbacks, financial, emotional, even physical. He battled illness, burnout, and self-doubt. But every time he felt like quitting, he remembered Connor. And all the other Connors silently watching. By year 3, his YouTube channel had crossed 300,000 subscribers. But that wasn't the win. The win was this: Eli Turner had finally become the man he promised himself he'd be. Not rich, not famous, but anchored, clear, aligned. Years later, when he stood on stage giving a TEDx talk titled, "Stop Chasing Success, Start Following Purpose," he told the story of that night in the basement. How a broken man found his way, not by doing more, but by doing less, with more clarity. He looked into the crowd and said, "I was 37, lost, broke, and ashamed. But none of that mattered when I decided to get clear. One purpose, one mission, one life. That's all you need. The audience rose to their feet. Because they weren't applauding his success. They were applauding his courage. To stop drifting. To stop pretending. To start living with definiteness of purpose. Final message. In the end, this isn't a story about Eli. It's about you, and me, and every person who has ever asked, what am I here for? The answer isn't out there. It's inside you. It's waiting. And it starts the moment you stop chasing and start deciding. So ask yourself, today, not tomorrow,